girl Henny. Y'all gotta go to her channel.
The girl Henny, do you know who she is?
She a blogger or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, where this lady come from?
Right on your ass.
She on your life, G.
Shout out to Henny over there.
What's poppin', everybody? It's your favorite goss and doc tender and independent investigative hood journalist, that girl Henny. And today we are going to be pouring up on Ashlee JaNae. And yeah, I know that this is a little late, but I had to complete what I was doing with her story. So it seems that Joe McCann has decided to break his silence, and he decided to do it with TMZ. And he gave a very let's just be honest, like, I was reading that thing and I was like, this is what we waited for? Really, Joe? Joseph, really? Yeah, that's how I felt about it. Now, I know some of y'all have already probably read this. Maybe you've watched it already, but I need to bring this to, I need to bring y'all up to date and up to speed, because we was talking about this, okay? We was actively talking about this over here. So let's not wait any longer. Let's go ahead and let's get this screen how we like our screen, and let's get to Ashlee JaNae. Now, on June 5th, the Zanzibar police concluded their investigation into the passing of Ashlee JaNae Robinson. Now, Ashlee, if you don't remember, and if you haven't heard, I don't know where the hell you've been at, but let me just go ahead and bring y'all up to speed. So Ashlee went over to Africa with her then boyfriend, Joe McCann, to celebrate her birthday. And they were at a resort. He proposed to her, asked her to marry him. She said yes. They left that resort and went to the Zuri Zanzibar resort. While they were there, they got into a loud argument where the front desk was called, security had to come, and Joe was removed and put into a whole nother villa, leaving Ashlee alone in hers. Now, Ashlee ended up dead, and they're saying that it was a self-deletion. And the family was saying that that wasn't possible. And so, you know how we do on the internet, we get to digging, we get to looking, and child, over here, we done talked about a lot of stuff that Joe was involved in. We done figured out connections. I got y'all his marriage license, because we found out he was married. And there was a lot of scandal surrounding that, right? Because that marriage was concluded in 3 weeks. And like in a couple of weeks after that, he's dating Ashlee. Yeah, child. I'll be making a playlist for this. So by the time this video airs, there will be a whole Ashlee JaNae playlist, so you could catch up with everything that I've already covered on this case, because this is not my first video. So we're going to read the article, and then we're going to read Joseph's interview, which was really weird because his interview was written. It wasn't like he sat down in front of a camera and he did his interview that way. He talked to them and they wrote it out like a magazine interview. And I felt like that was so impersonal. Yeah, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So this article came out, and it says that the Zuri Zanzibar police force, through the Criminal Investigation Department, has concluded its inquiry into the death of United States social media activist Ashlee JaNae Robinson, 31. Pause. This is the first time that I'm hearing about Ashlee being a social media activist. I don't know if she's done any activism, but she went from being an influencer to an activist. Let's make this a little bigger, shall we? All right. I think I like it like that. All right. So it goes on to say, stating that she died by self-deletion as a result of mental distress. Put a pin in that statement right there. as a result of mental distress. Okay. The incident occurred on April 8th, 2026 at around 8:55 p.m. at Zuri Hotel in North Uganda. Uh oh, I'm sorry. Uguja? I think that's what that says. I think it says Uguja. I said Uganda. My bad. I did not mean to say that. All right. So it says where she had been staying with her fiance, Joe McCann. Pause. Because if you remember when we read through the hospital reports, they were saying that Joe was her husband. So now it's back to fiance. She was later pronounced dead on April 9th, 2026, while receiving treatment at Ampola Hospital in the West Urban region. In earlier preliminary findings, police had indicated that Robinson took her own life following a disagreement with her fiance, although social media reports at the time suggested she may have been killed by him, which is what everybody believed, and I believe a lot of people still believe. Following the conflicting accounts, police launched a full investigation, including detaining Joe McCann for questioning as part of routine procedures, addressing journalists in Zanzibar on June 4th of 2026. Deputy Director of Criminal Investigations, Zubri Chimbira, said it had been established beyond reasonable doubt that Robinson died by self-deletion linked to mental distress. Through witness statements and analysis of communication devices belonging to the deceased and her fiance, we established that she had been experiencing mental distress. SMS exchanges showed repeated complaining regarding her life circumstances, he said. He added that the investigation conducted in collaboration with other institutions confirmed that no individual was implicated in the death. Police reports indicate that Robinson checked into Zuri Hotel on April 6, 2026 with McCann and was accommodated in Villa 25. On the day of the incident, April 8th, at around midday, a misunderstanding reportedly arose between the couple, leading to an unresolved dispute. The hotel management was informed and subsequently moved McCann to Villa 65 while efforts to resolve the situation continued. So even in this report, they're saying that Joe was moved to another villa. Remember that as well. So remember, she did this due to mental distress, and that Joe was moved to another villa. Remember those key points, all right? According to police, at around 8:55 p.m., a hotel staff member conducting routine evening duties, including pest control and general room checks, reached Villa 25 and found the door closed and the room unlit. After knocking without response, the staff member used the master key to enter, switched on the light, and reportedly heard a sudden thud-like sound before discovering Robinson unresponsive, hanging inside the room. Police said she was suspended from a clothing rail using a garment belt commonly provided for guest use in the hotel. The Zanzibar police force has urged parents and guardians to maintain close contact with young people to better understand their daily lives and support them in addressing personal challenges before they escalate. So this is what the I don't know how to say that, but this was the report that came in from Zanzibar on Friday, June 5th. Now, Joseph sat down with TMZ and he did an interview. And let me see if we get a date on this, because it doesn't say at the top. Like usually articles tell you at the top. And yes, this is a long one, y'all. It doesn't say, but I can easily find that information out. Give me 1 second. I can get that information when he sat down, or possibly when he sat down with TMZ. That would have been, it says yesterday. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's see, or at least that's when it was sent to me, was yesterday. So let's go ahead and let's listen to it. And this is just like, to me, the photo, the title, I cannot tell you. her doing this, it gives me creepy vibes. Butterflies in the chat if you get creepy vibes from that shit. You could throw Henny glasses in the chat for this one because you might need some drinks in real life. All right, so TMZ Charlie Neff sat down with Joe McCann and asked him some questions. So the first question was, for people who only know your story through headlines, tell me about Ashlee. Who was she to you? So let's see if we could big this because... yeah, big this. Oh, yeah, that's perfect. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So he says, Joe responds and says, first and foremost, her name was Ashlee Robinson with an L-Y, not Ashley with L-E-E. Sir, people knew her on social media as Ashlee, L-E-E. We didn't know her as Ashlee, L-Y, until after all of this hit the fan out there in Zanzibar with you. And I think right now, the last thing that you should be worried about is if we're calling her Ashlee with an L-Y or Ashlee with an L-E-E. Okay? Just saying. He said, it's important to understand this diction because many people knew Ashlee JaNae, but the woman I knew was Ashlee Robinson. Technically, you knew both. We got a long way to go. Let me keep it together. All right. So Ashlee JaNae was a persona she created to evolve over time. Ashlee Robinson was nothing like Ashlee JaNae. Ashlee was my best friend and soulmate. Ashlee was wise beyond her years, goofy at times and funny, intelligent, extremely creative and clever, classy and elegant, sweet, and a true hustler who made something out of nothing, a quality we both shared and bonded over. Ashlee was my best friend and my soul. I already said that. Ashlee provided a love to me like no one ever had. And she was we were inseparable together nearly 98% of every day we dated. We truly only wanted to be with each other all the time. In the weeks and days leading up to her passing, Ashlee began to open up to me in explicit detail about her past, namely her traumatic childhood, as well as some of the abusive and dysfunctional relationships she had with prior boyfriends. Pause. I have a problem with this. Because if Ashlee told you that in the confidence of you and her being together, dating, why are you breaking that confidentiality to speak? Because what it's giving to me is it's giving, they tried to slander and smear my name, so I'm going to slander and smear theirs. That's what it's giving to me. Let me know if that's what it's giving to you. Okay. And why are you bringing up her past boyfriends? Whatever. What I've learned since her passing only further confirms the struggles she faced. It's important to understand the deeply rooted pain and trauma she carried with her as Ashlee Robinson, not Ashlee JaNae. So Charlie asked, how did you two meet? Which is what we all wanted to know too, right? So he says, Joe, being the him, in September of 2024, I was speaking at a number of conferences in Singapore, putting on a cultural music event sponsored by my company, Asymmetric, as well as attending the launch party for an online casino deal that I secured for Iggy Azalea. Now stop, because Iggy Azalea got sued for that. Remember we did those paperworks? Iggy's event was a rodeo-themed party where she flew in 50 models from the U.S. to work the launch party. Ashlee was a talented coordinator, providing half of the models for the event at the last minute. Was also asked to work it herself, so she did. The night prior to the casino launch party, I held my asymmetric party, and the first time I met Ashlee was when I was behind the DJ booth at my event. She tapped me on the shoulder and said to me, Iggy asked if you could change the music. My response was a simple no. I saw Ashlee briefly at the casino launch party, but the following day, I DM'd her on Twitter X. She was tweeting about the event. We started chatting, and I told her I was moving to Miami in 2 weeks. She informed me she lived there. On November 2nd, 2024, we went on our first date and were inseparable from there. Now, pause, because he says he met her in September of 2024. He was, I believe he was still married then and would shortly be divorced. Charlie asked him what made you fall in love with her. So Joe says, she was perfect, almost too perfect. I fell in love with her on the first date, and she did with me as well. In fact, in a text that Ashlee later shared with me, halfway through our dinner on our first date, her best friend checked in on her, and Ashlee's response was, "We're getting married." So he shared the text message from November 2nd, 2024 at 8:01 p.m., where the best friend says, "Hope you're enjoying your night. I love you." She says, "We're getting married." The best friend says, "Heard it here first." Ashlee puts the laughing emoji and says, "He's perfect." And the best friend says, "I love this for you. Congrats, sister." So he's saying that she shared these text messages with him, but I don't believe that. I believe he went through her phone. He had plenty of time since her passing to go through her phone and read her text messages, etc., etc. Maybe she did share with him, but I just feel like he got it from out of her phone. Like, come on. Come on. For our first date, Ashlee was 2 hours late. She texted me asking if I wanted to reschedule, and I just told her no, I'll wait. When she approached the bar and I felt her hand tapping me on the shoulder, it was like electricity shot through my body. The feeling was beyond description. On that date, we learned that we shared so many interests that we both considered rare. So much so that I actually captured them in an Apple Note because it was simply uncanny. Ashlee mentioned the same thing to her best friend in another text that Ashlee shared with me later. So Ashlee is sharing her conversations with her best friend with you. I would think that he more than likely went into that best friend's thread and deleted some things. Because if that's the best friend would know everything that's going on. Where is she? She needs to speak out. She needs to drop the rest of the text messages because he's picking and choosing right now what he wants. And why? So he gives us this text message, right? But we don't never see the Apple Note that he claims he jotted these rare things that they were so interested in as a couple. Does this sound like gaslighting to you? Does this sound like some shut up, Penny? Read the messages. Okay. So the message says, "What's not to like?" Ashlee says, "We just had a lot in common, which he wasn't expecting." So right here, you see where it says he's obsessed already. He's obsessed already, he said, LOL. And so the best friend responds with the smirk face. Ashlee responds with the smirk faces back. And then it's enjoy, call me in the morning. Have a good night, pumpkin. All right. So Joe goes on to say that Ashlee had an incredibly gentle and sweet spirit. She had a loving presence that was infectious. All of my friends and family who ever met her all felt it. Now, before he locked down his Facebook page, I find it important to note that when he posted a heartbroken emoji, a lot of people in his comment section didn't even know what he was talking about. I didn't see people saying condolences to him, but again, he did close down his Facebook page, so we don't know what's going on it. He also says she also had her own thing going on and was a fellow entrepreneur like me, which was extremely attractive. I respected her hustle and she respected mine. She was also adaptable and comfortable in any environment, much like me, another characteristic we shared. Whether we were watching Netflix for hours on end on the couch, her absolute favorite thing to do, or attending a business dinner, she fit perfectly and felt comfortable in her own skin and on my arm. She wasn't afraid to act silly with me in public either. We had a running game of who could embarrass the other more, and neither of us ever won. Now, do you see why I'm saying this is so impersonal? Because he's giving these answers to Charlie of TMZ, but we can't see his face. We can't see his body language. We can't hear the tone in his voice. We can't look at his eyes. We can't do any of that while he's giving these answers. And it just sounds like a lot of fluff. But I digress. Ashlee was just, in a word, cool. She had exceptional taste, but was also infinitely curious about new experiences and ideas. And of course, she was out of this world gorgeous. The photos and videos people see online exemplify her beauty, but in person, it's impossible to put into words how stunning she was. So Charlie says, you proposed during her 31st birthday trip to Tanzania. What was that moment like? So Joe says, actually, this is only true in a superficial sense. Okay. He says, see, I proposed to Ashlee JaNae on April 3rd. I proposed to Ashlee Robinson before we left for Africa. So Joe is saying that the proposal that was done in Africa was done just for social media, but that he had already proposed to her. He says, and that's the point. We had a private life. Ashlee JaNae was the public persona. Ashlee Robinson was the private person. He goes on to say, on March 26th of 2026, Ashlee and I attended an NBA game, the Dallas Mavericks versus the Portland Trailblazers. After the game, we went out to eat and then to a bar owned by one of our friends where it was Drake night. On the way home, Ashlee was being her typical self, blasting the Death Notes at full volume in my car, but I turned down the music and asked her, do you want to try on the ring? Ashlee knew I had brought a ring, but didn't know when I was going to propose to her. Her initial response was no, but within seconds, with a giant grin on her face, she said, okay, yes, I do. Pause. So you proposed to her on a random night. You asked her if she wants to try on the ring, so she tries on the ring. And you're telling me that she didn't call her parents to tell them that you two had gotten engaged, that she was engaged to be married. She didn't tell anybody that they were already engaged. Where's the friends? Where's the family? I need them to speak out again. Okay. So he says, when we got home, I went into our walk-in closet and she was in the master bathroom that is connected to the closet, only separated by a door, which I left partially open. She was taking off her makeup and just chatting away about our night. And then she opens the door and I was holding the ring. She immediately burst into tears and kept saying over and over again, it's perfect, it's perfect. I was able to catch a few pictures of this candid moment between us because it was us and only us. So this is Ashlee with the ring on her finger. And if you look at the outfit that she has on, this is an outfit that we saw her in at the basketball game on her Instagram page. So let's continue to read because I have a question, but I want to read a little bit before I ask my question. So he goes on to say, the next day, Ashlee took to ChatGPT as she did every day with regard to almost all aspects of her life to help her analyze the most optimal ways of posting the happy news for Ashlee JaNae's Instagram account. In addition to her personal use, Ashlee extensively used ChatGPT for every single post, reel, and story she posted on Instagram, with conversations going on for hours sometimes. Out of respect for Ashlee, this specific content of her ChatGPT question and answer sessions will remain confidential. So he shows her again, and then he shows her ChatGPT. Okay. Now, according to him, this was on March 28th. If we go by this, I guess metadata. But as of recent updates, we're finding that you can alter metadata too. Isn't that crazy? He says Ashlee never took the ring off from that moment on. Now, until it was time for Ashlee JaNae to receive the proposal. That's what he says. She never took it off until it was time for Ashlee JaNae to receive the proposal. Now, notice something here though. He talks about asking her, you want to try the ring on? He says she comes out the bathroom and he's standing there with the ring. She starts crying. She says it's perfect. It's perfect. She's got the ring on. We didn't hear how that moment was. The proposal. Like, how did you propose to her in that moment? We didn't hear about that. We didn't hear, she came out the bathroom and I was standing there with the ring and I dropped to one knee and I asked her to be mine forever. I mean, this is his soulmate. This is his best friend. Everything is so perfect between the two of them. So where's the proposal moment? Because one would think that one would share that information. Just saying. Okay, I'm just saying. All right. So he goes on to say, I'm an intensely private person, but I know how much Ashlee wanted to have that moment on social media, and I wanted her to have that moment. I was always supportive of her influencer career through which she made a living, but also spread her unique brand of altruism. Ashlee declined countless lucrative promos and ambassadorships, but she had recently started to reach out to local businesses she wanted to support that shared her values. Ashlee informed me that on social media, the proposal is a huge deal for women. And of course, Ashlee was masterful at turning the algorithm to make posts go viral. She had the idea of the proposal happening with the lion, but with the lion laying down in front of us. I changed the plan she had at the last minute, which is why she was genuinely surprised in the video. I messaged our host at the Several Wildlife to confirm. So he shows us the messages that he had with them. He said, my plan was to do it during the walk with the lion. We would walk together for a bit. I would stop, get down on one knee and propose to her. Is this something we can do? So they say to him, the Several Wildlife, they say, before to Masi Village, we will pass at Masi Bamba. There you will have a dress like Masi and then kneel down so that we can sing for you. We will like secret. I don't know what that means. He says, thank you, but I want to do it with the lion if possible. So they go on to say it's possible when the lion is lying down, but if she's walking, doesn't stop. So I guess they're trying to say, if the lion is walking, the lion is not going to stop. So it's better for you to do it while the lion is laying down. But as we saw from the proposal video, the lion did keep walking, but they didn't even care about that, the lion walking in the moment. So he goes on to say, and that is how Ashlee JaNae, not Ashlee Robinson, received a proposal from me. Once again, Ashlee went on to ChatGPT to hyper optimize her post about the proposal. The post went crazy viral as she expected. So I guess he's saying that she planned and strategized everything for that moment that social media got, but that wasn't the real proposal. That was just all smoke and mirrors. She had already been proposed to, so they had been engaged for a while. Y'all buying it or not? So then Charlie goes on and asks, the trip took a horrible turn when Ashlee took her own life. What happened in those final days together? This is where it's going to get interesting, y'all. Because for the first time ever, Joe is going to tell his version of what happened with Ashlee. I guess when they got to Zuri Zanzibar, to the day that she allegedly unalived herself. All right. So he says, to understand what happened in those final days, it's important to understand what happened a few weeks prior to us leaving for Tanzania. Because Ashlee's behavior at the Zuri Zanzibar resort was entirely consistent with her behavior a few weeks prior in Bend, Oregon, while we were on a snowboarding trip. So pause. So he's saying that there was something going on with her a few weeks prior to us going away, but you got engaged to her. Y'all were still, you'll see why I said this in a minute. I'll hold that thought. So Ashlee and I planned on having a family together. Ashlee desperately wanted a baby girl. She had her name picked out and everything. She queried ChatGPT on several occasions over many months about what our baby would look like based on our pictures, the chances for my blue eye color versus her eye color, the best time of the year to get pregnant, and so on. She told me she wanted a daughter specifically so she could love and care for her the way she always wanted to be loved and cared for as a child. So here's another dig at the family, making it seem as though Ashlee didn't have the perfect life. Now, I'm not here to debate that. I'm just saying some of these details about the family could have been left out. And the reason he's being very heavy with ChatGPT is because in another article, I thought I had pulled that one. My apologies to y'all. The Zanzibar Police Department said that through a ChatGPT thread, Ashlee was asking how to suspend herself so that she could self-delete with ChatGPT. So now here's Joe talking to this TMZ reporter, and he's putting ChatGPT heavily in here, right? I'm not going to say that it's not true. I'm not going to say that it is true, because there are people who ChatGPT for every little thing in life. Okay. So he says, so he goes on and says that, however, in January of 2026, Ashlee learned from her doctor that there was a possibility she would not be able to carry a child. He goes on to say that she was devastated. That night, she broke down crying. I consoled her, held her, and told her everything is going to be okay and that we're still going to have a baby. When we arrived in Bend on March 12th for our snowboarding trip, her behavior dramatically changed. So they were in Bend on March 12th, yet he engaged himself to her on March 28th. That's almost... So they arrived on March 12th for their snowboarding trip, and her behavior changed drastically. Ashlee was completely unrecognizable in her actions and words, a different person. She was visibly upset. She was screaming and yelling about things that would typically not merit even a short discussion and threatening to end our relationship. While I was in Zuri after Ashlee passed, I learned from authorities in Zuri that Ashlee had engaged in a lengthy question and answer session with ChatGPT about taking significant amounts of Valium. Okay, I said to suspend herself, but she asked about Valium and how much Valium it would take to unalive herself. In his press conference on June 4th, Zuburi Chimbara, Deputy Director of Investigations for the Zuri Police Force, confirmed the existence of this ChatGPT session. And so here is where these are, just slides. It's not video. And it has the captions on it where they were confirming that they learned through ChatGPT that this is what she was doing. Now, allegedly. Now, on March 13th, our first day of snowboarding, Ashlee hit her head on a rock and sustained a concussion, even though she was wearing a helmet. However, she refused to go to the hospital. For days after, Ashlee complained that she was dizzy and was forgetting things she said only moments prior. Nonetheless, she insisted on riding multiple days on that mountain after this occurred. So he goes on to show Text messages between the two of them, asking, hey, are you okay? She allegedly is responding saying, I had to get a bite to eat. I was very dizzy. Sorry, it didn't update you fast. I feel better, but I needed water and a seat. Heading out in 4. So Joe says 4 minutes or at 4 p.m. She says 4 minutes. I had to check out. He says, check out from where? She says, I said I needed to eat. Needed. He says, oh, right. So she says, I'm in the car now. He says, please be careful. And if you get dizzy, just pull over and I'll come meet you. So he doesn't give much context to where she was going and what was going on, but he's trying to show you that in this text message, she said she needed to check out. And he's like, check out from where? And she's like, I said I needed to eat. So he says, after I pled with her for days, she went to the doctor. When we got back to Portland, the doctor confirmed her concussion and prescribed her medication. So he texts her and says, it's not safe out here for you. Please get in the car so I can take you home, and I'll leave you alone so you can have some time to yourself without me around. You are 6.6 miles from home. It's going to be dark in an hour. If you walk, it will take you 2.5 hours. You're not safe out there alone. I'm begging you. So Ashlee says, you said your piece. So clearly it sounds like they were having an argument. Ashlee was giving his text messages a thumb down. Now, right here in this little portion, you can see where it says, yeah, no problem. Now, this incident occurred on March 16th of 2026. So he goes on to say, while in Bend, I was on the receiving end of multiple public outbursts by Ashlee, a behavior that I had not previously seen from her. My response to each outburst was to physically distance myself to ensure that I was removed from the situation. Now, if she's acting weird, she's being erratic, she's being all of these things, distancing yourself. Do you see where that got you? Distance. So he's showing a pattern of, in this conversation, he's showing a pattern of, number one, he's saying that she had family issues, that her life was not peaches and cream growing up. Number two, he's showing that she has a habit of using ChatGPT for everything. So that this will now coincide with what the police are saying over there in Zanzibar. And then number three, he's showing that there is a history of any time they have an argument, they get into something, Joe is going to distance himself because he was distanced from her after their argument in Zanzibar. So it just sounds like he's trying to make it seem like this was all just normal routine because since she had that concussion, she wasn't herself. Now, people do get concussions and they do get head injuries and they do change in their behavior. So that is quite possible, but how convenient. So he says, at one point, Ashlee tried to open the door of my car at a high speed on a rural highway on the way back from the mountain. I pulled over when it was safe to do so as she was having a panic attack. Another behavior I had never seen before. She got out and then began walking back to the house on foot. I pled with her to get back in as it was not safe for her. She walked a mile and then got in an Uber. Why does he keep telling her that it's not safe for her? I mean, it's not, but why does he keep saying that? Anyway, when I knew she was home safe, I arrived back at the house and saw that Ashlee was standing barefoot in the driveway. She began to take all of the snowboarding equipment out of my car and threw it all over the front yard and driveway. She then threw a snowboarding helmet towards me at point blank range, striking me directly in the face. I did not retaliate. I picked up all the equipment and placed it back in my trunk, back in my car, and asked her to come inside. So here is a photograph of Ashlee outside. She's barefoot. All of the equipment, I see clothing and stuff is all over the front yard. So he's saying that she did that. Okay. Photograph of snowboarding equipment thrown across the front yard and driveway in Bend, Oregon. All right. He goes on to say from there, she went outside and began walking into traffic while threatening to commit unaliving by being run over. I pled with her to get out of the road and got her to come back inside, after which I left the house to create physical distance between us so the situation could stabilize. She called and texted her mother, Yolanda Andres. So I wonder if the mother knows about this story. So he also has a photo of Ashlee standing barefoot in the middle of the road. I have a problem with this. And I know there's going to be some people that are going to say he was doing that to protect himself. And while that very well may be possible, it's very suspicious to me. Okay? Because do we have photographs of her after your argument in Zanzibar? Do you take photos of her every time? Because if you're saying that this is the behavior that she was displaying, do you always take photos of her having episodes? And mind you, this was all before the proposal, okay? So he's painting a picture that Ashlee had a snowboarding accident, hit her head, had a concussion, was acting strange, and had threatened to unalive herself before by being run over by a car. Okay. Ashlee also texted me to tell me our relationship was over and she was moving back to the East Coast. So this is the text message. It says he says you gave up on us this past week. I felt something was amiss. And then you finally told me that your sadness was associated with your feelings of not being able to have children. Then it all made sense. I gave you grace and then you came right back at me. I asked you to calm down. You refused. Previously, you threw a snowboard helmet at my face and your behavior was concerning me. So I decided to leave the situation. I'm devastated for us. And Ashlee says, you refuse to talk to me. Now, the crazy thing is, in all of these prior text messages that we've looked at, there's a date and time. Okay. There's no date and time on this one. But the other text messages had dates and times. This being something that's supposed to be so crucial, so critical, where's the whole conversation? Where is the date and time? Okay. He goes on to say, however, I got on the phone with her and she asked me to come back to the house, so I did. When I entered the house, she began to cry and admitted to me that she was terrified she was going to not be able to have a baby with me and that I would leave her. I held her and told her it was going to be fine, that I would never leave her, that I bought a ring so we could get married, and that I was committed to her. So he told her ahead of time that he bought her a ring for them to be married. I don't believe he bought that ring. I believe he purchased the ring after this. It just feels like a lot of gaslighting to me is going on. And he's building a narrative, because why did you wait to say anything? He says the next day it was like a switch flipped in her. She was completely back to normal. She had me pull over on the side of the road to joyously run in a green field. And there she is. So now he says in Zanzibar, Ashlee's erratic behavior returned on April 6th, right when we arrived at the Zuri Zanzibar resort, one day after her birthday. The first of several public outbursts happened at lunch on April 6th with a server present. In the 2 days that followed, we engaged in a series of heated discussions in our villa as well as as public areas. Instigated by these outbursts. Ashlee's behavior had grown even more bizarre than the behaviors I observed in Bend. She was chain smoking cigarettes. Ashlee didn't smoke. She woke up and drank a bottle of white wine immediately. I've never seen her drink in the morning except maybe a glass of wine or mimosa at brunch. This was not Ashlee at all. This was something else. So he shares a text exchange, again, no date. Okay, where he says, I have not and would never yell or scream at you in public. You put your hands on me yesterday. You threw a snowboarding helmet at me. at my head at point blank range. You screamed in public multiple times in Bend and now in Zanzibar. You really don't see the issue here, do you? Yes or no? So she says, this really not a conversation I will continue to have over text. When and if you are ready to speak, either on the phone or in person, that is fine. You're not hearing my point of view. I keep hearing yours and acknowledging them. So he says, I just asked you a yes or no question. So they're arguing. All right. So he goes on and says, throughout our time in Zanzibar, Ashlee demanded that I take the engagement ring back from her and insisted that I call the engagement off. I declined every time and told her I wanted her to be my wife. She took the ring off, placed it in the safe in the villa. Eventually, I was able to calm her down enough so that we could at least go and enjoy the beach together in what proved to be a pleasant escape from reality. Ashlee wanted to shoot some content of her riding horses on the beach, so we got ready and headed down there. When we arrived, she forgot the ring and she wanted it in her photo. She went back to the villa but forgot the code to the safe. She came back frustrated, but I told her I'd go get it and not to worry. When I arrived in the room, I sent her a pic of the safe showing the time delay remaining, so she'd have a sense when I'd return and to calm her down. And to calm her. Now, you already said she was calm, so why did she need to be calmed some more? So he texts her and he said, you need to sign a paper at the front desk. Just come back when you're ready. Then he says, because you entered the wrong code 5 times, the safe locks for 10 minutes. There's some time left. I have to wait. Where are you? So he's showing that the safe was locked, that the code was entered wrong too many times. All right. He says the following is one of the last photos of me and Ashlee together. She requested that a bystander take some pics of us in true Ashlee fashion. She was directing the production while displaying the ring. Okay, he says, shortly thereafter, Ashlee and I were chilling on lounge chairs in the sand. When it was time to go, I got up to walk to the bar to pay our bill. At this moment, Ashlee began another outburst that drew the attention of nearby security personnel. I told her I was simply going to pay the bill and pleaded with her to remain calm. She decided she would go back to the villa, and I told her I would stay behind and watch the sunset. When Ashlee left, I decided to contact Zuri Zanzibar guest services via WhatsApp and inquire about a separate villa. So we've been hearing all this time that they had a dispute in the villa and that security removed Joe from the villa and that Joe was then placed in a villa clear across the resort. Because remember, we looked at it on the map. Clear across the resort. This is where I'm like, my spidey senses are tingling. All right. So he shows the text message and he says, okay, we'll be there. So he says, hello, do you have any villas or rooms for rent tonight until Friday? So this wasn't something that he planned to do for just one night. He was planning to do this for the duration of their trip. So the Zanzibar guest service messaged him back and said, hello, Mr. Joseph. Thank you for your message and interest in our villas. For tonight, we have only 3-bedroom oceanfront villa available until Friday. Another option is from tomorrow for the suite jacuzzi with ocean, 1-bedroom and living room view available until Friday. He said, how much is the 3-bedroom per night? So they said the 3-bedroom per night is at least $5,600. So Joe switched his villa on his own. That was his plan before he even went back to that room with Ashlee. So he says, then I walked back to the villa, and after taking a shower, Ashlee initiated another heated discussion. It was at this moment that I finally told her, okay, give me the ring back. The engagement is off. She reacted by yelling, smashing lamps and glassware in the room, and telling me, among other things, I hope I choke and die in here tonight. Sir, you had an argument with her. You contacted guest service to change your room. You already had plans to leave the villa with her. You won't bother to say what you were arguing about. You won't say. So, were you cheating with women in Zanzibar like it's been alleged? Why were y'all arguing? And what was the arguments about? And why were they so frequent? He's making it sound like she was just snapping out and going crazy. And you went from, I'm not taking the ring because I want you to be my wife, to give me the ring, the engagement is off. That explains why he has the ring, right? Good alibi. During this time, someone from neighboring Villa 24 contacted the front desk, letting them know that the couple in Villa 25 was having a disagreement. Within minutes, 4 security guards showed up to our Villa 25. Suddenly, Ashlee became entirely calm and explained to security that there was no issue and that everything was fine, even going on to say, as the woman in this situation, I would let you know if there was something wrong. At this point, the head of security asked if we needed some time to set or time or separate villas. I volunteered to get a separate villa and explained to them that I was already in touch with guest services over WhatsApp. My bags already packed. I left to head to the reception desk. Handed off my key for Villa 25 and received my key for Villa 65. Now, when have you ever heard that happen? When you check in and they give you 2 keys, they expect you to return 2 keys when your stay is over. But instead, he turned over his key to the villa, to the front desk, to clear himself of having any access to go back into that room. Am I the only one that has their investigation Discovery Channel cap on, their 48 hours cap on, hell, their Law and Order SVU cap on? Because this is sounding like you are really, really trying to distance yourself from the crime scene, set it up that Ashlee was having mental disorders. She was already trying to unalive herself. She was trying to end the engagement. And I had just been so fed up. I'd been so embarrassed by her that I finally said that the engagement is over. And so I asked for the ring back. Because remember, the family was saying that her ring was missing. And the engagement didn't sound too romantic outside of the one that was done for social media, which he claims he did for Ashlee JaNae, not Ashlee Robinson. Okay. Your bags were already packed, which says this was premeditated. Okay, once safely apart from Ashlee at the reception desk, Ashlee's mother, Yolanda Indres, tried calling me and texted me that Ashlee wouldn't answer her phone and that Ashlee was texting terrible things. We didn't hear any of this from the mom. Where's the dates on this text thread? So apparently it says, did you take your things or is it still in her room? This is the mother talking to him. And he says, it's possible some of my stuff is there, but I have most of my things. So Yolanda asks, what room is she in? Joe says, is she not responding to you? She's texting me, Villa 25. So Yolanda says she's texting terrible things and won't answer the phone. Is it possible to fly out tomorrow? So the mother, according to this text message, was trying to fly out the next day. Either she was trying to fly out or she was trying to fly Ashlee out. So Ashlee says, no need for flight info. Take care of your kids. This is what, I'm sorry, I skipped a part. So Joe says, I then headed down with Zuri's staff to my new villa, number 65. I then started to receive incredibly disturbing text messages from Ashlee stating her clear intention to take her life. I tried calling her multiple times, but she wouldn't pick up. I begged and pleaded with her, but to no avail. So Ashlee allegedly says to him, which we don't see what's going on up here, that no flight. That doesn't look like Ashlee. Hold on, y'all. That doesn't look like Ashlee to me. Hold on. Mm-hmm. 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 Let's look, you guys. Let's see. Because that doesn't look like Ashlee to me. This doesn't look like Ashlee to me. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a picture of this with my phone. Oh, I didn't mean to make it that small. Okay, that's where we were. And I'm going to zoom in on that because that does not look like Ashlee to me. It doesn't. I'm sorry. Okay, let's get back to where we were. So allegedly, Ashlee says no need for flight info. Take care of your kids. I wish you the best in the rest of your life. Sorry, I wasn't enough. I guess she means I tried my best. Goodbye forever. Remember me as someone who cared. Then she says, don't let anyone I don't like carry my casket. No attempt this time. Goodbye, Joe. So then she goes on to say, putting you out your misery. So Joe says, please call me. She says, please leave me be. He says, I keep calling you. She says, stop. He said, I'm begging you. Please answer my call. Please answer the phone. You're scaring me and your mother and everyone who loves you. Please, I'm begging you. And then he shows where he's called her back to back to back to back to back. Here's my problem with this. We still don't see any camera footage, no video footage, no nothing. If Joe has her phone now, how hard would it have been for Joe to have already unalived Ashlee? And then texted himself this stuff? Because this is around the time that the mother is texting, right? He claims he's down at reception. This is around the time the mother is texting. This is around the time that he's alleging him and Ashlee are texting, and it's all around the same time. Okay, then he's showing some missed phone calls. He says, I also called her villa directly 3 times by pressing 1 plus the villa number 25. She never answered. Her last communication to me was simply the word stop. Yeah, Joe, stop. Because this doesn't make any sense to me at all. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. The mother is telling you that she's texting her terrible things. Granted, y'all just got into an argument. The girl is talking to you crazy. Like this sounds like, okay, she's having a moment if this is real. And you decided to stay in Villa 65. You didn't get up, go over there, go see what was going on. No, nothing. You're calling her. She's not answering you. She's telling you to stop. She's telling you to leave her alone. She's telling you goodbye. You called the room. You got no answer. So Charlie says authorities said when you were at the Zanzibar hotel, there was some kind of disagreement and you two ended up in different rooms. Can you clarify what happened? So Joe says, my answer to the previous question sets the record straight on what really happened. No, it does not. It does not set the record straight because there are still questions. There are questions that were not answered. Okay. So Charlie asked, at the time, there was a great deal of speculation about what had happened. Her parents told me that they felt Ashlee's death was suspicious and that she didn't have mental health problems. What do you think about those comments? So Joe says, while as a parent myself, I empathize with her parents in the deepest possible way, I find these comments utterly confusing. The devastating reality was that Ashlee, who was a truly wonderful but tortured soul, did suffer from visibly evident and significant mental problems. But she was your soulmate, and she had a head injury. Now she had mental health. Moreover, to anyone who insists on believing against all reality that Ashlee's death was suspicious, quote unquote, I would suggest that they watch Deputy Director Chambera's June 4th press conference in which he left zero doubt that Ashlee's death was tragically by self-termination. So he says in the investigation confirmed without any doubt that the act by the deceased, which she carried out on April 8th, 2026, of attempting to hang herself at Zuri Hotel, was what led to or caused her death on April 9th, 2026 at around 3 p.m. Okay, so he's saying, he goes on to say, based on evidence collected regarding that incident, there is no person who can be linked in any way whatsoever to the death of the deceased. The evidence confirms that the deceased died as a result of her suicide attempt, which occurred on April 8th. Sounds bought and paid for to me. What about you? So Charlie says the family insinuated you had something to do with her death. What do you have to say about that? He says any insinuation, well, Joe says, any insinuation that I had anything to do with Ashlee's death is categorically false, defamatory, and malicious. Anytime somebody uses the word categorically before they say false, it always raises an eyebrow with me. It always does. Okay. Charlie then asked him, given the speculation that surrounded this case, I want to ask you directly, did you ever threaten, abuse, or have any intentions to harm Ashlee? Joe says, I would never harm any woman in any way. And that includes Ashlee. Absolutely not. Never. And in fact, her family knew this, as demonstrated by a text message between Ashlee and her mom in 2025 when Ashlee accidentally lost my credit card. Is anyone else disturbed like me that you keep bringing text messages from her phone into this equation? Coincidentally, this is April 9th. Just last year, April 9th, 2026, Ashlee was dead. But April 9th, 2025, to the date of her death, her mom says, hey, what's going on? Ashlee says, no luck at valet, and they helped me search the car. I got to rip the Band-Aid off. He's not mad at all. He was like, well, now you don't have a credit card till a new one gets here, LOL. Me panicking for nothing. Your girl is traumatized. So Yolanda says, it's been a traumatic ride for me. So Ashlee says, LOL, why were you traumatized? He's not a violent man or doesn't lash out or anything. Why would you be scared? Me, I was scared because it was my first credit card he has given me. Joe goes on to say, I did, however, tolerate Ashlee becoming physical with me on more than one occasion, including in Bend. She also confided with me that she had been in multiple abusive relationships with other men. I hope one of her exes comes out and speaks out. So Charlie says, after Ashlee was discovered, she was still alive and was taken to the hospital where she died the next day. The family said during that time you were distant and they found that odd. Do you feel you were distant? So Joe says, while Ashlee's family is entitled to their feelings, the reality is that I was entirely preoccupied with trying to save Ashlee. During this whole period, I did everything in my power to assist the doctors and nurses frantically working to keep Ashlee alive. I even created a shared Google Doc that I used to consistently update Ashlee's family with every bit of information I was coordinating with multiple doctors, hotel staff, and even the Medi-Evac service provider out of Nairobi. I know that they received this Google Doc that had all the information in it because they shared it with other members of their family and friends who requested to access it. So here is the Google Doc. It says, we will save Ashlee Robinson. And then you see some people requesting to join it. All right. And then you see here, this is the flying doctor's bill, the medevac to move her from one location to the next. So Charlie says, do you have any regrets about how you handle things? Joe says, I regret that I couldn't alleviate Ashlee's deep mental anguish. I'm so triggered and pain sooner. She shared numerous deeply disturbing things with me in the weeks and days leading up to her death. And she spiraled quickly during that time. I wish I could have brought her over from the darkness into the light. So Charlie says, we were told that Ashlee's family didn't invite you to her funeral. Were you aware of this? So Joe says, although we had been in communication during Ashlee's final hours, Ashlee's mother never reached out to me after April 9th, and her father never reached out after April 10th. I decided to respect their desire for distance. Moreover, my priorities were to get Ashlee's remains home and to cooperate with authorities to assist them in their investigation. There was simply never any form of communication from her parents or any other member of the family with me with respect to the funeral. So Charlie asks, would you have gone? Joe says, absolutely. Now, do you notice how he never answered about not being invited to the funeral? And if he was aware of it, he never answered that question. So Charlie says, have you done anything to honor her since her passing? Joe says, yes. Since I was assisting the authorities in Zanzibar with the investigation, I was unable to attend her funeral. I was still in Zanzibar, so on that day, I wrote a eulogy and posted it at 11:11 p.m. East African time. And we remember this, okay? He says, Ashlee wanted to get married on 11/11/2027. And she always would tell me it's 11/11 and 11/11 when it would show up on the clock. Later this summer, I plan to do a very private celebration of life event in her honor. I also began the process of setting up a 501c3 foundation to properly honor Ashlee's legacy and to aid others who are grappling with mental health struggles. I'm triggered. I will be making more detailed announcements about the 501c3 at the appropriate time in the near future. Charlie goes on to ask, if you could say anything to Ashlee's family, what would you say? So Joe says, as a father myself, I can't imagine how difficult it must be to lose a child. I hope that you are able to find a small measure of peace thinking about the incredible impact that Ashlee made during her time on earth and the impact that her legacy will have for years to come. Ashlee was my soulmate, and I will never allow her to be forgotten. Charlie says, I want to now talk about the aftermath, specifically the backlash you received since her death. How has that been for you? Joe says, in a word, horrifying. The day after Ashlee passed, I had no time to grieve, as I immediately began cooperating with the authorities in their investigation. I could have flown home on my own on April 10th, but I skipped the flight and stayed back to ensure that Ashlee got home. No, you were detained. They took your passport. You're lying. The legacy media and social media trolls began to run with a patently false narrative of suspicion, which exacerbated a tragic situation. I began to receive a barrage of racially fueled death threats. I still do today. Moreover, my family's safety was at risk, as well as the safety of family members, friends, employees. It's been incredibly painful to lose Ashlee. The hate, vitriol, and lies told by so many in service of the lie that I somehow had something to do with her death have made the grief that much more difficult to comprehend. So Charlie says, do you feel race contributed to the hate you were and are receiving? So Joe says, without question, the false narrative that some members of the legacy media and online trolls decided to run with about race, wealth, and power. Not the mental health issues that affected Ashlee. She never would have wanted this, although Ashlee was proud of her heritage. She never defined herself or others by race. She looked at everyone in their individual merits. Charlie asks, in a way, did you understand where suspicions were coming from, even if you disagree with them? So Joe says, of course, as mentioned, the false story from the media about race, wealth, and power. But I also became a Gradian scapegoat. Sorry. I'm referring to the writings of the contemporary philosopher, the late Rene Girard. Okay. And his view of scapegoating aligning perfectly with my experience. When a group of people are suffering from pain, anger, frustration, from an acute event, Ashlee's unaliving, self-unaliving, allegedly, they find an object to sacrifice, me. And only when that object or person is expelled or eliminated do they have the strength to move on from the source of pain. There are myriad instances of Girard's scapegoating concept across history. I'm just one of many recent examples. The tragedy of this circumstance is that the focus should be on remembering Ashlee's greatness and preserving Ashlee's legacy. Given the suspicions that were raised, it was of the utmost importance to have an investigation into Ashlee's tragic death that was comprehensive, forensic, and personal. I'm extremely grateful for the dedication and effort put in by the litany of agencies and individuals involved. And then he goes on to start naming people. He goes on to name the Tanzania Police Force, the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Commission, the Governor-in-Chief of the laboratory, the Cyber Forensics Laboratory, the medical and autopsy staff at the hospital, et cetera, et cetera. So Charlie says, how did the official findings affect you emotionally? Did they bring any sense of closure? So Joe says, obviously, I already knew the truth and have been grieving the entire time. When the official findings were announced, I felt a deep sense of renewed pain, but also purpose. Ashlee's story needs to be told so we can honor and cherish what she brought into this world. Her death will not be in vain and her legacy will be preserved. So Charlie says, how has your life changed since losing Ashlee? Joe says, it's been absolutely devastating and incomprehensible. None of this feels real. Ashlee's death has been a nightmare of nightmares. Everything in my life today reminds me of her, and her absence is a constant reminder of the tragedy that has taken place. Charlie asks, what do you miss most about her? Joe says, everything. Ashlee had such an outsized impact on my life that there isn't a specific time that I missed. There isn't a specific time that I miss about her. I miss it all. The final question was, what do you want the world to remember about Ashlee JaNae? And Joe goes on to say, I don't want the world to remember Ashlee JaNae. I want the world to remember Ashlee Robinson, my soulmate and best friend. I want people to understand her incredible story of how she navigated life, her creativity, her intelligence, her gift, and ultimately her love and very select people she let into her life. The ending of her story is an incomprehensible tragedy, but the chapters of her life that precede need to be shared, and it's my mission to do just that. Baby, let me say this, and I'm trying to say this with the utmost respect, as much respect as I possibly can have, as much empathy as I could possibly have. Respectfully, I'm not buying it. I'm sorry. Respectfully. I'm not buying it. This interview, once again, was impersonal. There was nothing about this interview that gave me grieving fiance, that gave me, I miss her so much. Nothing about any of this really felt, I'm just going to say it, genuine. It felt like it was a setup to align with the Zanzibar police findings. That's what it sounded like. Remember, there's a whole cyber city that is going to need them coins and some asymmetric and blockchaining because they're dealing in crypto over there. He helped Zanzibar get their crypto coin. The guy who owns Zuri Zanzibar is a friend of his. Most importantly, I'm questioning her family. And here's why. Her body has been home. You guys have had a funeral before she was buried, and after she touched back down in the U.S., the family did an independent autopsy. The family has been quiet since. And I just personally feel that if the autopsy matches what they were saying in Zanzibar, then come public and say that. But you know what this is sounding like to me? Like Ashlee may have been hit upside the head at some point by him, and he was trying to clear that up. She had a snowboarding accident in March. You then turn around and what? Propose to her on the 28th? After she's already hit you in the face and thrown your stuff around and she's acting erratic. And then y'all go to Africa and y'all have this outburst and you're already asking about leaving the room. You're showing there's a history of all of that. I mean, it's just too perfect. It's too perfect an alibi. Very vague about the proposal. Very vague about what their arguments were about. Very vague, but very strategic to paint a picture. I'm not buying Joe's story. I'm sorry, I'm not. It doesn't judge well with me. Because at the end of the day, the transparency, we get it. You were in Zanzibar. Did you not have access to your phone? Her funeral happened. You had time to write your own eulogy, but you didn't have time to address anything else. Yeah, this is highly suspicious. Fuck. Joe, you are not off the hook, and this is not the end of this story. I'm waiting to hear back from the family, and hopefully they speak out and tell us what's going on. But what say you? Let me know down in the comment section below, and let's chop it up about this. Is Joe really painting a picture here? Or do you believe that Ashlee really did this to herself? Let me know. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace, everybody.
Because I don't want this simple life.